بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. إن الحمد لله نحمده سبحانه ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهديه الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. أما بعد، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Hope and pray you all are doing well. Alhamdulillah, we are into the 26th night of Ramadan. Subhanallah, 26th night of Ramadan. We're only subhanallah, four nights left maybe, and that's really about it, including tonight, or with tonight, then 4 more nights, and we'll be done the month of Ramadan. Subhanallah, just as soon as it came, it left us. Um, and this is a call, this is a reminder that there's still time. There's still time to maximize the reward in this month. There's still time to benefit from the mercy and the blessings that are contained in this month. There's still time. And even if the beginning started off slow, or if you still feel like up until now you haven't really capitalized, well, guess what? You still have time and you can still capitalize. And at the end of the day, it's not how you start the race, it's how you finish the race. And so you still have time to roll up your sleeves. You still have time to put in the work. You still have time to sacrifice a little bit. And inshallah ta'ala, you'll see the rewards and the fruits of your labor, inshallah, in the hereafter. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to reward us. اللهم تقبل منا صيامنا وقيامنا وسجودنا وركوعنا ودعاءنا يا رب العالمين. Truly we ask Allah to accept from us, because it doesn't matter how much we do. The deeds in and of themselves, they're not what's important. We could stand night and day, all night and day, and it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean we've earned um, anything from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? We could worship Allah Jalla wa ala throughout our life, all night, all day, for 50, 60, 70 years straight without committing any sins, and we could just be devoted to Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. And yet that worship would not amount us to be, would not be enough for us to earn paradise, right? For us to earn the pleasure. Um, we wouldn't even be able to pay back Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for, you know, one eye, or the ability to speak, or the ability to hear, the ability, just these small favors that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. Our worship wouldn't be able to even come comparison to what He's given to us. So really, the effort should be towards just servitude to Him, seeking His pleasure, seeking His rahmah, seeking His, showing gratitude to Him, and worshiping Him in a manner that befits His majesty, that hopefully through this worship you will attain Allah's pleasure, you will attain Allah's fadl, you will attain Allah's mercy. Because as the Prophet ﷺ said, none of you will enter paradise by your deeds alone. And then they asked, Ya Rasulullah, not even you? They said, not even me, unless if Allah were to envelop me with His mercy. And so at the end of the day, our deeds is not what's going to enter us into paradise. Our standing in Laylatul Qadr and attaining 1,000 months of worship isn't what's going to attain Jannah for us. It's Allah's mercy and it's Allah's forgiveness. So that's what we should be seeking. That's what we should be after. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept from us and allow us to cultivate this, in these nights and these days, and allow us to leave Ramadan, in this state of really trying to show servitude and submission to Allah at a higher level, right? It's not just about the rewards anymore. As Wahb bin Munabbih, he said, rahimahullah, he said, do not ask about the reward of a deed, but rather ask about the shukr that is due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for allowing you to do the deed in the first place. Allahu Akbar. Think about that. Subhanallah. Subhanallah. You could stand in the depths of the night all last 10 nights, and you could feel good about yourself, and you could feel like, what, Allah has, I've done so much. But, Allahu Akbar, you wouldn't have been able to do any of that if Allah didn't allow you to. If Allah didn't give you pleasure, if you didn't, the ability, the strength, the motivation, the energy, you wouldn't be able to do any of it. So really, do not ask about the reward, but rather ask about the shukr that is due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for allowing us to do the deed in the first place. With that, inshallah, let's continue on in our discussions here. We were talking about the different cases that are relating to reward and intention. And we've and just so we were discussing that. Previously to this, we were discussing also various different cases, and I think there might be some confusion. So let me just clarify this: that the cases that we were referring to, maybe last week or maybe a week before that, those were cases that we were referring to, which were specific to, you know, acting for other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we were looking at the different cases in which we could be doing an action, but the acting is for other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we said someone who's doing it specifically for, doing an act of worship for other than Allah, seeking riyah, seeking, the fame and the fortune and the status from people, right? And then we said, what if someone does it 50-50, right? For Allah and then for other people. Then we said third was someone who's doing it for Allah, but he's also seeking a worldly gain. What about these cases? So all these cases, the theme around those cases were, um, how do we judge our actions when the action is maybe not necessarily always for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or when we get that sense of riyah or that sense of, accomplishment, right, in our deeds. Like, how do we judge those actions for ourselves? So that was first case. Now we started talking about the different cases when it refers to intention and doing an action and the reward associated with those. So the first case we discussed was if I have an intention and I do it, what's the reward around that? And we said it's 10 to 700 times based upon your intention. The second case that we discussed was around habits. We tried to discuss, how do we judge our habits and what's the intention that we get and the reward that we get around habits. And we talked about that. And then the third case, which I believe we didn't finish it, but we were talking about last class on Friday, was what happens in the case when we intend to do something good, and for whatever reason we didn't do it or we weren't able to do it. We didn't do it and we weren't able to do it. And so based upon this, we went through the different, narrations of the Prophet ﷺ, in which, the daughter of Abdullah bin Thabit, for instance, radiallahu anhu, he was preparing for battle, Abdullah bin Thabit radiallahu anhu, and he passed away before he was able to go to battle. And so his daughter was very upset at this, and she said, I wish that you had died as a martyr, as you had intended, as you had prepared. And so then the Prophet ﷺ told her, فَإِنَّ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ قَدْ أَوْقَعَ أَجْرُهُ عَلَيْهِ عَلَى قَدْرِ نِيَّتِهِ, that Allah has given him his reward for him according to the extent of his intention. So he had the intention, he didn't do the action. He wasn't able to do the action because something came in the way for him to do it, meaning death overcame him, but he was full-fledged going to do the action. So Allah has given him the reward according to his intention for doing the action. And then we left off here, and we were going to discuss the statement of Shaykh Uthaymeen rahimahullah ta'ala. And he says something very interesting, and he differentiates a very important point for us to look at. He says, so the hadith, so he refers to the hadith, and this is the hadith which we also took, in which, so the Prophet ﷺ, we know, we took the hadith where the Prophet ﷺ, he said that inna aqwaman bil madinati khalqana salakna shi'ban wal wadi wala wadiyan illa wa hum ma'ana fihi habasuhum ul udhr. The Prophet ﷺ said that in Medina there are people we left behind. There are people we left behind. And we do not pass through any ravine or any wadi, right? Any valley, wadiyan, that we don't go through any ravine or any valley, except that those individuals who are in Medina, they are with us in reward, because they were kept behind due to a valid excuse. They were left behind due to a valid excuse. Commenting on this narration, the Prophet, Shaykh Uthaymeen rahimahullah ta'ala, he says something very interesting. He says the meaning of this hadith is that if a human being makes an intention for a righteous action, he makes the intention that I'm going to go forward and I'm going to do this action, then it is written for him as if the reward of the intention. So he gets written for him the reward for the intention of doing a good deed. Not necessarily. So that's the first thing he says. But then he says, but if he used to perform this righteous action regularly, when there was nothing preventing him or her, they were constantly in this act, and they were always, So in this case specifically, these companions, they were always eager to go with the Prophet ﷺ, and they would always go out with the Prophet ﷺ. Even if there was nothing preventing them from doing so, they would be with the Prophet ﷺ. So Sheikh Uthaymeen is saying that, and if they used to regularly go and perform these actions when nothing was preventing them, um, then it is written for him the reward of the action in full. Meaning it is as if he performed the full deed, as if those individuals were with the Prophet ﷺ. Because the Prophet ﷺ, he says in the hadith that if the slave of Allah becomes ill or travels, it will be written for him the reward of the deeds he used to perform while in the state of good health and residence. So here Sheikh Uthaymeen is actually differentiating between two things. He's differentiating between the reward for the intention of doing good and the reward of the action of doing good. They're two different things. So Sheikh Uthaymeen is saying that someone who intends something good, he intends it, but he's not able to follow it up, he's not able to do it. He doesn't do it, but he intended it. But for whatever reason, he didn't follow up that intention with a good action or with the actions. He will get the reward of the intention, meaning one good deed he will get for the reward of the intention. However, if this individual, for instance, let's say he was always doing this action, he had a regular habit, he would constantly engage in these actions. And for whatever reason, then he was prevented from doing that action. In this case, the individual will get the reward of the intention and the reward of the action itself, as if they did the action even though they didn't. And so this is actually, this is one of those, statements or these understandings that really brings um, light and ease, right, to the believers. It brings comfort. And this is very important, especially when you think about the lockdown, when you think about everything that's going on. What this is really meaning is that if we really relate it to our situation, is that, for instance, if you had the habit of, before this lockdown, you had the habit of going to Fajr for the masjid, going to Isha for the masjid, and you're not able to do that anymore. Meaning the reward that was attached to those deeds, right? Because we know the Prophet ﷺ told us that whosoever prays the Isha Salah in congregation, it's as if they get it's as if they prayed half the night in prayer. And then whosoever follows that up with praying Fajr Salah in congregation, in Jama'ah, it's as if they were praying the other half of the night in worship. So it's as if the person who prays Fajr and Isha in the masjid, it's as if they were praying the whole entire night. They got the reward as if they're praying the whole entire night. And so let's say this was the regular habit of someone. And now this lockdown comes down and now they're not able to go for Fajr, they're not going to go for Isha. What does that mean? Does that mean this individual will not get the reward? No. Inshallah, this individual will get the reward of the intention, and they'll get the intention of actually doing the action, and they'll get the reward of the full, blessings associated with praying Fajr and Isha in the masjid, because they had the habit. They were constantly in the action of doing it. They would always do this action, or they were ready, and even if they weren't constantly doing the action, but they had full conviction to perform the action, inshallah, in this case, they will also be rewarded for the action, right? And this is huge relief. This is huge relief. Imagine someone who would give in charity in this month. They would give and they would give and they would give. Now, for whatever reason, COVID comes around, this crisis comes along. Let's say some people, they've lost their jobs, or they don't have the same amount of income that they had beforehand, and they can't spend as much as they would like to, or they're not able to spend at all, let's say. Does that mean now they won't get rewarded for giving charity in this month? La, they will get rewarded. They will have the reward of giving a charity in this month, because that was what they used to do. And if they had the means to do it, they would do it. If they had the means to do it, they would do it. And so, based upon this, there's a beautiful statement actually by one of the one scholar, Abu Layth al-Samarqandi, rahimahullah, who mentions in one of his books. It's a very profound statement, so I'm going to read the statement here and then we can discuss it. He says, "Many sleepers attain the reward of a person praying. And there's many people who are awake." Let me repeat that. So many sleepers attain the reward of a person praying. So people who are sleeping, there's many people who are sleeping that attain the reward as if they were praying. And there are many people who are praying, but they get recorded as if they are sleeping. So then he explains. This is when a person, an individual, he has a habit of getting up in the nights. And so he makes wudu, and then he prays Fajr when it comes in. But then on one night, he sleeps with the intention of waking up, and sleep overcomes him. So he sleeps, he wants to wake up to pray until Fajr, but he's not able, he falls asleep. Sleep overcomes him until dawn comes, then he wakes up. So until Fajr comes up, he wakes up then. And he's saddened by this. He's saddened that he fell asleep through the night. So this person is recorded as a person praying and attains the reward of a person awake because of his intention. Because of his intention. Then he explains, as for the man who does not get up in the night to pray, he doesn't get up in the nights to pray. And then he thinks that when Fajr has come, then he'll get up. Okay, so when Fajr has come, then he'll get up. So he doesn't have the intention, he goes to sleep, he doesn't have the intention to wake up in the nights. He tells himself, when Fajr comes around, I'll wake up. So then Fajr comes around, he makes wudu, he goes to the masjid, and then he realizes that it's not Fajr time. It's not Fajr time. And he waits for it, saying to himself, if I knew it was not Fajr, then I would not have left my bed. And this is how someone who is recorded as someone who is awake is recorded as someone sleeping. So subhanAllah, this is a very, it's a little bit, we have to work through it. But what he's saying is that someone, he goes to sleep. This individual, he goes to sleep and he has the intention that I'm going to wake up in the nights to pray. Even we're in the last 10 nights, someone could say, I'm going to take some rest and I have the intention to waking up, in a little bit so I can pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the depths of the night. And then sleep overcomes you, and for whatever reason, you don't wake up till Fajr time. And you're like, oh no, I missed that opportunity to pray. I missed that opportunity to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on one of these nights. This person say, inshallah, this person will be recorded as someone who was actually awake while he was sleeping, meaning he'll get the reward as if of praying because he had full intention and this was his action, this was his behavior. Whereas the second individual, let's say the same thing, this individual, it's last 10 nights and he's saying to himself, I'll wake up for Fajr, inshallah, and I'll go to the Fajr for the Masjid, meaning he doesn't have the intention for praying in the nighttime. So then, he wakes up and he thinks it's Fajr time. He gets up, he makes wudu, he goes to the Masjid, and when he gets there, he's like, oh man, it's not Fajr time yet, meaning I woke up early for no reason. And while he's sitting and waiting for Fajr, he tells himself, you know what, if I wouldn't, if I knew that it was earlier, I probably wouldn't have come. I probably would have just kept sleeping. And so his intention was that at that moment was that even if he was asleep, I mean, even if he was awake, he would rather be asleep. And so he'll be rewarded the reward that he'll get is as if someone was sleeping, as if someone was sleeping. And so it's fine. This is just goes to show the power of intention, right? That when you sleep and if you're intending to wake up and in general, just intend good things with sincerity, obviously, but always intend good things because for whatever reason, if your actions don't follow suit, if you're not able to perform the action, if something comes in the way, inshallah, if you had the ability and you were fully convicted and you were going to do the action, you will be rewarded for the intention and you'll be rewarded for the action as well. So, you know, don't feel like, as long as you have the intention, and if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, remember, everything happens by the will of Allah Jalla wa ala. Everything happens by His will. And if for any reason something has prevented you from doing the action, don't feel overly, depressed. Obviously there would be a little bit of sadness, but realize that you still get the reward. Inshallah, the reward is still yours. So praise Allah for that and thank Allah for that and seek Allah's bounty from that. So that was the third case. The fourth case now that I wanted to discuss was what happens in the case. So that was the case where someone intended to do something good, but he wasn't able to do it. Okay. Now we're moving on to the fourth case. The fourth case is when someone intended to do something bad, something evil, something wrong, and they didn't do it, or they weren't able to do it. What happens in this case? Someone intended to go to a club. Someone intended to, drink alcohol. Someone intended to steal. Someone intended to, do something which is wrong, which was incorrect. What happens in this case? So in this case, if the action was, if someone intended something wrong and they willfully on their own accord, they said, you know what, I can't do that deed. They wake up, they basically have fear of Allah. Taqwa, builds into their hearts or settles into their hearts, and they're like, no, I can't do that action. I can't do that deed. And they refrain from doing that action. They refrain from doing that sin. This individual, even if he intended bad and he stopped himself from doing it, he will get rewarded. He will get a good deed. He will get rewarded for this action. Now, on second, discussing the same case, if the action though, let's say someone intended to do something wrong, but they weren't able to do it, but it wasn't because of their own doing. It wasn't because of their own doing. Let's say, they they had full intentions to drink alcohol, full intentions. They took a sip and everything, and they drank it. But later they realized that what they were drinking was actually some type of juice, or it was, water or whatever, right? It wasn't alcohol. This individual will, it be his sin, he will get the sin as if he drank alcohol, because his intention was there and he fully was drinking it. It just happened to have been that the action didn't follow suit. So he will get a sin recorded for himself. He will get a sin recorded for himself. Um, so that's case number 4, right? Case is if someone who intends to do something wrong and isn't able to do it, or doesn't do it, right? If they aren't able to do it because of just their consequence or because of environment or whatever, and it's not because necessarily they themselves have stopped themselves, then this person will be sinful. But if they themselves stop themselves from doing the action, inshallah, this person will get a reward for that deed. They will get reward for that deed. And we went through, and I think we will stop here, but we've already taken this case in depth. But what happens in the case when someone intends bad, but the action is good? Someone intends bad, but the action itself is good, right? So someone praying, but they're praying to seek the attention of someone. They're giving in charity, but they're seeking the attention of someone when they're giving that charity. Obviously, we've already been through this. This is the case of riyah. This is the case where this person's deed will be null and void. They will not be accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so with that, actually, we'll end here. We will, tomorrow we have 2 more cases to go, inshallah. So we will discuss those tomorrow, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Tomorrow we will discuss the case of what happens if someone intended bad and they did the bad, like talking about that in a little bit more detail. And then we'll also talk about what happens in the case of someone who intended good, but the action was bad. So they intended good, but the outcome of the action that they did was wrong. So intended good, wrong action, and then intended bad and did the bad action. Inshallah, we'll discuss these cases tomorrow. Inshallah, we will end by saying Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa ant. Nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Jazakumullahu khairan. We'll open this up for questions now. Whoever needs to leave, they can obviously go. Inshallah, may Allah bless you guys. The goal is that we will be finishing these discussions in our classes on Friday. Bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. We will wrap up our discussions by Friday, maybe even by Thursday. So we'll see how it goes. But definitely we have one or not too much. We have maybe 2 or 3 more things to handle, but I get a feeling we might be done by Thursday, but we'll see, inshallah, how things go. But inshallah, whoever needs to go, we can go. Inshallah, we'll open up for questions now. Jazakumullah khair.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa
How are
barakatuh.
you doing, brother?
I am great. How are you doing, Omar?
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
All right. So we went through quite a bit today. Jazakumullah khairan. So we're talking about the last point where someone intended to do bad and didn't go through it. You gave 2
Yep.
examples. What if somebody intended to do bad, but fell asleep or didn't go through it and let it pass, or in
Yeah.
that case, would that intent be recorded against, or would that there be no sin for it, and not being able to go through the action because he fell asleep, or
No, they'll get the
uh,
sin for it for sure. Yep. They'll get the sin because they're prevented from it, but the prevention wasn't because of their own doing.
okay, because I'm trying to remember now. It's been a while, but is or maybe it was discussed early as well in the class, is where a person who intends something good, and if he doesn't do the action, he gets the reward for the intention. If somebody who
If he
intends
intends to
bad,
do good
yes, so he gets the reward. But if somebody who intends bad and doesn't do it for whatever
willfully,
reason,
willfully,
okay,
willfully. So
okay, well,
someone who intends to do something bad, but then they say, you know what, I'm not going to do that action. You
okay,
know, that is rewardable. But someone
okay,
who's I'm fully going to go carry out the sin, and
right,
some circumstances come in the way that stop him from doing the sin, they're still going to get the
okay,
sin.
okay, okay. So that's good to know. Okay, Jazakumullah. So that is willfully, okay, willfully, and okay, and I'm just going through. So, and I know you just kind of went over the two, two, two things that there was a little bit of clarification. With the first five that we were discussing was when we are doing any actions, and if it can fall into the category of for other than the sake of Allah.
Mm,
And the second discussion we're talking about points is about the the intention and how they stand with the reward for the action, right?
yeah, yeah,
Okay. All right. And just a question in regards to this COVID-19 situation.
yeah.
How could one intend in the situation where it can also become an act of ibadah, where being able to, I mean, it's great for the person who was in that situation where they're praying Isha and Fajr in the mosque and they weren't able to enjoy their reward. How can we make this whole scenario as an act of ibadah just by intending, so that we can be more
Yeah.
resourceful, by getting more ajr, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us this opportunity. Uh,
Yeah, you know what? It's a little so I kind of feel like it's a little like we've passed the mark in terms of
mhm,
reaping, but 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 it's not to say that, like I think we should make the intention every single night and every single morning that, oh Allah, let if the masajid open, you know,
mhm,
I am I'm going to be the first one there, right? Like, so it's like, um as long as we approach our salah in that manner, that, you know what, I'm preparing, making my wudu, getting ready, to go. And if and I want to go to the masjid, and I'm coming to you, O Allah, with that intention. But, you know, we're not able to right now. But if the first opportunity that comes up, I'll be there, right? And the
mhm.
real test will be is once the masajid open, are you there or not, right? And
Right.
um that's where it comes down to. So, wallahu alam. In this case, it's a little
Okay.
tough because it's like, but
Right.
it's really depends on your your normal habits and behaviors, and and only Allah knows really how sincere and how true the intention is about doing the deed. So it's not something I could give really a remark on, but it's just, I would still try to equip, my actions with the better intention, right? So like obviously
Right.
praying in the masjid is a
Right.
better act, right? For the salah. So it's like
Yes.
make that intention that, oh Allah, like at least for like the prayers that
True.
you would be able to on a regular basis, right? Um make that intention then inshallah, like,
Right.
that this is, if the masajid open tomorrow, it's not like I'm going to stay at home and pray, right? I'm going to the masjid and praying.
Right. And the quick question, I guess, is just me and you in this group right now. Um, in regards to zakat calculation of RESPs,
Mm.
uh, right? There are two. I can ask you here, or should I ask you? Uh,
It's probably better to ask. off of here. Yeah.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
recording. Okay. All right. So, inshallah. So, I'm just trying to develop some good habits, and may Allah accept all the khair that you're doing, and may Allah keep us sincere that whatever we do it for His pleasure.
Ameen, inshallah. That's the
Remind
goal.
each other and remind ourselves, inshallah. So, one of the things that Hamza mentioned early on was ask, what are we doing? Who are we doing it for? Uh, Now, this is in all actions, or would it be in matters of where there is ibadah involved, where is reward or punishment there, or because there's certain areas where it's matters of the dunya,
Yep.
and then there's matters of the, you know, the reward with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala directly in matters of rituals or
Yep.
worshiping Allah.
Yep.
So one of the things that you mentioned was that does it apply on everything or
No, so obviously Riya is not something like the concept of like obviously the specific scenario is according to ibadah, no doubt, right? It's
okay,
our worship that needs to be 100% for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like
okay,
that, there is no limits. That's not something we want to
understand,
mess
yeah,
around with.
right,
But um, I would go the step further and question every action I'm doing
okay,
and ask myself, why am I doing it? And if I can make a better intention for it, then why not? Because then I'll get rewarded for it.
right, okay. Yeah, subhanAllah, yeah, it's powerful these things, in terms of doing things that can act as a motivator and as well as deterrent.
Yeah.
Yeah, to stop anything for the pleasure of Allah or
Yeah.
to avoid the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
And I really think that's like I think that's the big takeaway. The big takeaway is just
Mm,
being able to pause, right? And
okay,
just ask yourself, and even that action of pausing and for a brief second and saying, why am I doing this?
okay,
Even if it's for the dunya, that's fine. There's no issue in doing an action for the dunya
right,
because there's nothing wrong with it, right? As long as it's a halal permissible thing, there's no issue
right,
with doing it,
right.
right? Um, but you knowing that is a big difference between you
Mhm.
just doing something just because you're doing it.
Right.
So, and I think
Okay.
that's part of the
Okay. So,
awareness and the mindfulness that
Jazakallah.
helps, inshallah.
Jazakallah khairan.
Wayak, inshallah. May Allah accept
Barakallah.
from us, inshallah. Take care, inshallah.
And
We'll talk to you tomorrow, inshallah.
inshallah. And then the question who should I ask? Should I reach out to you on
You can reach
WhatsApp
out to
or?
me. You can reach out to me. Just
Okay.
WhatsApp me,
You're
inshallah. Yeah.
available?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you available right now or will you be free?
As in, yeah, I'm going to go pray and stuff, but you can still reach out to me, inshallah. And when I get a
Okay.
chance, I'll take a look through it.
Okay. All right. Jazakallah khairan.
Wayak.
Thank you.
Take care, bro.
Assalamu
Assalamu
alaikum.
alaikum. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
You too, bro. Assalamu.